welcome to Young Money. I'm Nozi Pombanjwa and this is CNBC Africa's freshest and youngest show. It's the show about us, the ones who want to go beyond the hustle, the ones who are keen on breaking the bank. Now, an American businessman, Michael Boeuff, that's the name that he goes by, he says that a satisfied customer is the best business strategy of all. So today we're going to be looking at the strategies of businesses that are appealing to the younger market. Who are these businesses and what are they doing to keep them winning? Speaking to Mia Kruger now, and she's giving us insights on how businesses that have been successful at capturing the minds and the hearts of young people are doing it and what keeps them winning. She is a portfolio manager as well as the director of Kruger International. Mia, happy Women's Month.
Thank you, Nozi. Nice to be with you.
Awesome, awesome. So that tweet, obviously breaking into the online marketing space, is really also about capturing the minds of young people. Top of mind, which big businesses that have made it should our tweeter really be following and looking at?
Well, probably the first one that comes to mind is Naspers. And when you look at what their core holdings do in Tencent and Mail.ru, they are very focused on the young sort of audience. And when you consider the sort of amount of people that use WeChat, they now have actually 600 million people that are active on WeChat.
But wait, so WeChat, 600 million people, that's
Yes.
such a big number. I'm having difficulty wrapping my head around it. How does that compare to, you know, your Twitters and your Facebook? Is there a ranking order now in terms of the biggest players in the pool?
Okay, so I think the biggest sort of difference when you're focusing on something like WeChat, which is like a chatting, a chatting app at this moment with a lot of different add-ons, it's the fact that they are exposed to China, which is a market that everyone sort of wants to target, and it's quite regulated when it comes to internet usage. So that is particularly the sort of distinction when it comes to something like WeChat. When you look at that number, there's only about 1 million of those users that aren't in China. So at this stage, it's very much sort of a China story. And when you look at the users and the age of the users, more than 40% of the users are between the age of 25 and 34. So it's a very young market. What they do, they actually look at how many people, how many times people open this app on a day, etc. And it's quite significant. And when you look at what people actually follow, it's just as interesting. Young people aren't really following celebrity accounts, and they are, that's about sort of 24% of the most popular followed accounts, and then about 17% are retailers. But the biggest one, over 60%, is newswires. So that is interesting. We want to learn.
But it also means that we could potentially be out of a job very soon.
Absolutely. So you know how Twitter works. People want to have information sent to them, what they sort of interested in. Same sort of story. These people follow the accounts that they are interested in. So that's very sort of the way that these sort of very creative tech companies work to capture the young mind.
So it's really about delivering and consuming news, but on a different platform. But let's talk about retail, because
yes,
as ladies, we know that online retail is something that's growing pretty fast. And one of the companies that comes to mind that seems to be doing this quite well is Mr. Price. Again, is it about the magic in the younger market here?
Well, I think it is. Everyone has, a lot of people these days have access to a smartphone and to a tablet, and those are sort of the access points that you these days can use to buy clothes or buy even food from Pick n Pay and from Woolies, etc. But I think specifically for the younger market, people are more focused on these sort of easy and very convenient ways of interacting and of buying, and of shopping. And it's, what's easier than getting stuff delivered to your door and then trying it on at home and then just sending it back if it doesn't work for you? It's much easier browsing online.
But there are entrepreneurs, of course, that have also realized and caught on to this idea that it's about mobile platforms, it's about getting the information on the handset for young people. Who would you say is like top of mind and perhaps a big influencer in terms of really a leader for young people that's followed by most, that really is getting it right? So this particular tweeter could possibly try and follow as well.
There are so many people that they can follow. There are so many influential and very successful young entrepreneurs. someone that comes to mind immediately is Elon Musk. I mean, follow his Twitter feed, read about him. He's not the best speaker, but he has accomplished so much in his young life. He's from South Africa. He's not proud to be from here, but you know, that's a whole different story. Yeah, and then local guys. I mean, I'm just thinking about the fun we had with DJ Spoo.
That's it.
And about the MoFire drink that they've launched in South Africa and how they're actually marketing that. So those are the sort of people that's all of them are on Twitter. All of them are quite vocal on Twitter, and they're sort of the people that you can follow.
But what about the bad side of online marketing? Because surely, Mia, it can't just all be a rave story. There must be some red flags that if you're going to go into that space, you need to be aware of. What would you suggest?
Well, I think you need to be aware of, you know, sort of the legal environment that you play in. And you know, you need to know, if you've got a Twitter account, you need to actually know sort of what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. You can't just let rip at anyone that you don't like. So, I mean, you better be focused on sort of that social media etiquette and the law. And that's very important these days.
This is a changing landscape, minute by minute, day by day. A very big thank you to Mia Kruger. She's Director and Portfolio Manager at Kruger International. And now as we go into our Now We're Here segment, we're catching up with the founder and managing director of Maneli Group, that's Nhlanhla Dlamimi. Nhlanhla, I want us to get to a point where we're talking about your journey leading up to this point, but before we get there, what about the exposure and vulnerabilities to world market prices? You know, how do you ensure that you have sufficient buffers so that what you've built is not eroded by what the world sets as a market price?
Certainly. So chicken is a great example where for the last year South African poultry players were struggling with imports coming in from the US and from Brazil, which are a lot cheaper. So in food you always will be subject to the vagaries of the world market, but you just need to have a business that's somewhat flexible to that. And one of the ways that I'm thinking about it is producing or procuring the bulk of my raw materials from South African suppliers or producers, but having some margin that you're importing as raw materials just to hedge for when prices are better overseas versus when they're better locally. The tricky element, which for me emotionally is, long term you want to give local producers a better chance at growing. Brazil's had many generations of being strong at poultry. You want to give young black poultry farmers an opportunity to grow as big as the Brazilians are.
So there's a real trade-off that happens in this particular space. Let's take a couple of steps back. It's 2015 now. Maneli Group it's in the market. You guys are active players, but it didn't start here. Take us back to where you think your key influences came into play that put you on an entrepreneurial journey.
It goes all the way back to when I was growing up as a kid. My dad was a small shop owner, still is a small shop owner in Soweto, and seeing him and his entrepreneurial flair was something that I aspired to and something that I still aspire to. Obviously I would have wanted to do that on a bigger scale, so my early childhood was a big influence. The second influence was in the place that I was working at previously at McKinsey & Company, where a lot of consultants would work there for 3 to 5 years and then do something very entrepreneurial in different sectors. And working with those sorts of people definitely gave me the insight and the courage to go and do that myself.
You've certainly bagged the academic qualifications as well. I mean, if we're talking Ivy League universities, you've been there, the best in South Africa, you've been there. What role has the academic part of the journey played in actually endorsing you as an entrepreneur? Is there a link between the academic and the entrepreneurial?
So I go against the common knowledge that you don't need a strong education background to be an entrepreneur. I think you do. I think it helps in terms of credibility when you're trying to break into a new industry or trying to talk to big players within that industry. And it just gives you the confidence to run the analysis and build a business from the fundamentals. So I was lucky that, as I said earlier, mostly through scholarships, I've gone to good schools and I always focused on academics, and I can see that it's serving me well now.
So let's get the world according to Nhlanhla bedded down. If you were to give advice to young entrepreneurs, how would you say they should chart their path towards becoming entrepreneurial giants?
I would say start working within a corporate or business for 1 to 5 years. It's always important to work within a big structure so you know what the bar is in terms of production, in terms of building a company culture, in terms of growing markets and so on. And then once you've got that confidence and that base, and also actually the bit of capital, then you can branch out into entrepreneurship knowing that you know how this is done.
Let's talk about capital, because one of the reasons why Manelli Group can exist is that there has been some capital injections along the way. Your experience of raising capital in the South African market as a black entrepreneur, how would you describe that?
It's difficult. I think there's a lot of institutional money that is available for black entrepreneurs to go into industry, but it's not a given that you'll get it. What makes it easier to get the money is if you've got focus, so you know that this is the industry and the specific opportunity that I'm pursuing, as opposed to thinking about a bunch of different things. That's one thing. The second is that you prove that you've taken a few steps on your own before going to look for funding. You can't go to funders and ask for money just on the basis of a concept. Say that I've done X, Y, and Z and I need money to go and do the next 2 steps. And then the final thing is resilience. A lot of people will turn you down, but after a while you'll get the feedback, you'll learn, and then you'll eventually get the money.
I want to maybe go back just a little bit more around the financing journey. We often hear that there's a debate in South Africa and perhaps in other markets as well, that is it a question of a dearth of ideas, or is it a question of just financing not being there to match bankable ideas? What's your take on the scenario?
I think the money and the ideas are there. The thing that's missing in the middle, I think, is the mentorship and the hand-holding for people to get to a commercial scale. Because I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs that have great ideas, but they won't get the funding because they don't have the credibility of having run something like that on a commercial scale. So whether it comes from retired professionals who now want to do this as a social venture, or comes from corporates as part of the enterprise development programs, that mentorship is crucial.
So you talk about enterprise development programs, and we know that this has become common language in the South African space. How would you maybe describe the overall environment when it comes to corporates' willingness to engage with entrepreneurs who perhaps don't have a track record but can maybe fulfill some of those scorings, give them some of that credit, but in a meaningful way?
My experience so far is that companies are well-intentioned and they definitely want to help small enterprises grow, but you have to come to them with a clear plan of what you want to do. So you can't go there with an exploratory idea of like, this is what I'm thinking about. Say that these are the things that I'm clearly convinced that would work, and this is the specific support that I need from you. So in summary, what I'm saying is that entrepreneurs need to take advantage of these programs by being clear on how they would benefit that company.
Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. And if you want the Young Money crew to come to you, all you need to do is just send us your tweet. The hashtag is Young Money, and ask your question that will help you take your business to the next level. And our end of the promise is that we bring you the best experts to help you break the bank. Until next time, guys, let's keep it rich and let's keep it real.